Rarely do operations have a clean exit.
We will be prying particulate from our ceramite for weeks. What this I am arming up. Good to go.
Has frailties. Exploit them.
Detonation materials available.
Cleanse those Xenos passages! Plant the melter charges atop their moldering passageways!
Next.
Filthy Xenos aberrations! Purge them all! Trigon counterattack imminent!
Well, that was a quick and easy finish. Sometimes you just get the luck of the draw. Well, not much to show this time. I mean, pretty easy completion there. We came in like 3/4 of the way through the mission. Regardless, when I run my Bulwark, I usually run 2 builds. Either I prefer running with the plasma pistol, which is a rate of fire, and the block fist, or I run the heroic pistol, Retribution's Request, together with the power sword, the fencing variant. For the heroic pistol, Retribution's Bequest, this is the setup that I take. First, I take the top row, Headhunter for 10% more headshot damage, along with Adamantine Grip for reduced recoil. This weapon does have a lot of kickback, and its accuracy is not very reliable, even at mid-range, so reducing the recoil is very, very important. But on top of that, the ability perk where when your HP is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession grants you 10% health. Not the greatest thing on the Bulwark, but it is something useful to have for the heavy pistol in general, if you're using it on other classes, like for example, the Assault would be a good example. Right, this would be a very good perk for that one, or Tactical. Next, increased capacity, because this weapon here has probably the lowest ammo capacity of any of the heavy bolt pistols, or most pistols in general, so it's very, very important to have as much ammo in reserve as possible. Next, extended magazine is pretty obvious, right? 15% extra magazine size, useful to have. Really translates to like 1 extra bullet, but you know, it is something. Next one, Death Strike. When you kill a Majoris level enemy or higher with melee, you deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. It's just good perk to have in general. Especially on the Bulwark or Assault or a Vanguard. Any class that you like to fight in melee range with, this is an excellent perk on this weapon. Next, Great Might. Damage against Terminus enemies increases by 10%. This weapon has a very, very high headshot multiplier. Very, very useful against enemies like Neurothropes and Carnifex, who have very big and obvious headshot hitboxes. So combine that with this Great Might and you do some pretty decent damage when they are vulnerable. Next, Discipline. When you have low ammo, you deal 25% more damage. Just something useful to have on the side. It's not mandatory, but it's something that kicks in passively. Useful to have. Next, Strong Finish. The last round in the magazine does 50% more damage. You can spec into this one, the Strong Start, if you want. They're both pretty valid either way. Next, the reason why I take Strong Finish is because it leads you into Headshot Hunter again for 10% more headshot damage. As I mentioned before, this weapon has a very, very high headshot multiplier, so getting in as much headshot damage as possible, I think, is very, very key. And of course, Gunstrike Reload. When you Gunstrike this weapon, is instantly reloaded. This weapon has a pretty fast reload speed regardless, but it is something that's useful to have. Next, as for the weapon, when I do take the sword variant, I take the fencing version. And I love fencing with the power sword. It feels very fluid and dynamic. It's very exciting to do. And it suits my playstyle very well. If you have armor remaining, you gain 10% increased damage. On a Bulwark, it is very, very easy to maintain armor, regardless of the difficulty level. Right? You can do it either via your perks, or you can do it just simply by knocking down a Minoris enemy and executing them with a gun strike. That'll give you an armor back. Master of Offense. When you switch your sword style, you do 20% more melee damage for 5 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. This is not mandatory, but it is something that is useful to have if you are in combat and swapping styles. Not the most mandatory thing. Next, Perpetual Strength. Melee damage increases by 5%. And then each consecutive light attack does more light damage. I like using light attacks in general, and I like doing like a 3 light hit combo and follow up with 2 heavy hits. So it's nice to have it slightly stacking up. Next one, when your HP is below 30%, a Power Whirl restores 1 armor segment. I don't use this that often, but it is something that is useful to have whenever you are in danger and you want to, get some armor back. You know, it's like the old saying, better to have something and not need it than to need something and not have it. It's a good safety net. Next one, after killing 7 enemies in rapid succession with a light combo, you don't lose control upon taking heavy hits. The Bulwark has a lot of ways to reduce having knockback, and this is just one of those with a power sword. Next, when you do I take hard target down below, right? When you're doing a light combo, you take 15% less range damage. This is very, very useful because my Norris enemies do an annoying amount of chip damage. So having this, very, very useful to have. Next, Power Rake does 50% more melee damage. I use Power Rake a lot, and so I enjoy using this ability. As opposed to, you know, enemies doing 40% less damage, whatever, you know. Next, damage against extremist level enemies increase, very important. Majoris level enemies, imported. Doing extra damage versus terminus level enemies. This is melee damage only, but on the Bulwark, which is a melee class, this is your bread and butter. And last one, speed style attacks restore 100% more contested health. It's just something nice to have. You don't necessarily need this on a Bulwark, especially if you're running Invigorating Icon. Or you, like for example, if you're using a plasma pistol, then this is not necessary. Right? And in that case, you're probably, you know, better off taking... Well, honestly, you're probably better off taking one of these instead, you know? So, yeah, that's my build for the Power Sword fencing variant. As for the perk trees, let's take a look at the grid. Intimidating Aura, right? When you do a perfect parry, right, you'll do a damage burst within 5 meters. Very, very strong, but be very careful because it can also instantly kill an enemy that you plan to execute if you want to get your contested health back. So be careful with this one. In other words, when you actually do a parry, get your hand ready to hit the execute button. For this particular build, sometimes I will run this one. Like when you block, you'll do an AoE radial burst damage within 10 meters. When you block range attack, very, very good against chaos enemies. Not so much against Tyrannid. Against Tyrannid, I'd go with a shock build, right? Where enemies in the shock area take 25% more damage, and then when you do a perfectly timed area block, you drop a shock area. But for this case, I took this one because against Terminus enemies, this is useful to have, especially against like Terminators with their machine gun. Right? And then I take this one, Armor Reinforcement. Non-finisher gun strikes restore 1 armor segment. This is extremely powerful when you are up against enemies that have a tendency to burn through armor very quickly, and who may have like slower, more methodical attacks. Having the ability to restore armor, regardless of having to kill the enemy or not, is a powerful way to ensure sustain. Less damage overall on your end, but you last longer in combat. And since I'm taking this, that means that I am not forced to take Focus Restoration, which gives everybody an armor segment back once every 30 seconds. And instead, I can spec it to Advanced Conditioning, which makes contested health fade more slowly, which gives you more time to get that contested health back. Besides, if you do a parry after that, you can just gun strike and get your armor back. Next one, Purity of Purpose. Right, the banner does damage over time. Between this one and Rapid Regeneration, they're both equally good. Like, make no mistake about it, both of these are very, very good. And it's really up to what you want to bring. Since I'm not bringing the shock via the perfectly timed blocker parry, then this is useful to have. It's just an extra bit of damage to take out my Norse. Right? Next one, Invigorating Icon. I still think this is the best perk within this particular tree for the Bulwark. It's not mandatory now. You can, of course, you can take this one if you want for doing extra damage. But for me, I love the safety net and the support capability that Invigorating Icon gives you. Not just for you, but for you, the entirety of your team. And as you saw with the Assault today, he was pretty happy to get his HP back. Then I take Rejuvenating Effect. This one is not a mandatory perk, but when you're in the thick of battle, in the middle of things, sometimes you do not want to be just dropping to your knees and picking up an ally as the enemy are blasting at you. So in those instances, having this is very, very good, because not only does it revive your teammate, it revives them and can pair perfectly well with Invigorating Icon to give them full contested health upon revival. So it allows both of you to fight back for your health. Next one, Merciless Resolve, is another alternative. You can take this. It allows you to have more DPS uptime. The last one, all squad members within the banner deal 20% more damage. This is only really useful if your squad team is either all melee or all range. Otherwise, take it or leave it. So for me, this one is just, I prefer using this. It makes you more wary of when to use your banner, and I don't mind that. For the signature perk, I usually take Defensive Mastery because of the fact that the ability to immediately eliminate an extremist level enemy or majority level enemy that's just really annoying you, to me it's a no-brainer. Even on a 90-second cooldown, like even when it's as long as 90 seconds, it's still extremely worth the take. As for the prestige perks, first I take auxiliary reload. Right, when you melee kill an extremist or higher enemy, you restore your ammo on your secondary weapon by 1 magazine. I also take resilience for extra healing on your med stims. I take overcharge so that your power rake or big heavy fist attack does more damage. And the last one, masterful defense, you restore your build charge by 1% for every blocked ranged attack. As you can see, right, you cannot take masterful defense as your first perk. Right, as your first prestige perk. That's why you don't see them. And yet, you see all 3 of these. So in fact, among the Bulwark's standard prestige perks, the one that goes in the first slot, all 3 of these are very powerful. And it really comes down to what you want to get out of your Bulwark that will dictate which one matters to you. The second time you prestige, then I would always recommend Masterful Defense. The ability to get your shield back, your banner back, sorry, not your shield, your banner back, is super valuable. To the point that it is entirely possible to drop a banner, right, kill an enemy with your contested health, get all of that back. Then if an enemy Terminator spawns with a machine gun, you can just stand still at a medium distance and watch as he blasts you with his machine gun. You hold up your shield and he will basically restore the entirety of your banner, if not like more than half. So very, very useful to have. So yeah, I take all the 3 basic ones and then masterful defense, and that's my build for my Bulwark. So thank you very much for being here and for enjoying the content. Today was a very, very lucky one on the last mission. The other 2 were more, they had to put in a bit more effort, but you know, that's the roll of the dice you get when you do quick play. Some missions you have to do the whole thing. Some missions you need to carry. Other missions you'll have great teammates to carry you, and then other missions you'll like spawn 3/4 of the way through the mission, and that's just the RNG nature of it all. I enjoy that about it, and I hope you have good luck as well on your end. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, as always, be safe, be well, and the Emperor protects.